All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live on the Saturday afternoon edition of NASCAR Cup Series qualifying for the running of tomorrow's Shriners Children's 500 at the Phoenix Raceway. Our first trip at the track where, of course, for the fourth consecutive year later this season, they will be hosting the NASCAR Cup Series Championship, fifth consecutive year actually, that they'll be hosting the NASCAR Cup Series Championship race. So maybe a good look at who maybe could contend for the championship if they make the championship for later this season in this weekend's event. Now, we did have a 50-minute full practice session, which took place yesterday evening, like it is for most weekends in the NASCAR Cup Series. So this is just strictly qualifying on this live stream here today. We'll go over the results of the practice session yesterday, kind of who was fastest in specific lap average areas as well. Joey Logano was actually the fastest in practice yesterday. Obviously off to a hot start this season by way of race car speed. Hasn't been quite getting the finishes he would have hoped for through these first few weeks, but he has been qualifying well, so he definitely could be a front runner for the pole here today. Denny Hamlin was second fastest in practice. Tyler Reddick third. John Hunter Nemechek fourth. And Austin Cindric was the top five. Eric Jones was sixth. Chase Elliott seventh. Christopher Bell eighth. Bubba Wallace ninth. Carson Hocevar rounded out the top 10. Interesting note, Hocevar was actually in the top 10 in some of the lap averages as well. And both he and Chase Elliott were really the two strongest Chevrolets yesterday. Only two Chevys actually ended up in the top 10 in practice, and I think only one of them in the top 10 in 15 lap averages or beyond, which was Hocevar. So I would look at maybe Hocevar potentially pulling off an upset this weekend as far as getting a solid run. He obviously ran well in the truck race prior to the fiasco that happened in the championship race there last season, and I would say that the truck series trucks tend to drive more like the Cup cars than the actual Xfinity Series cars, so maybe that could bode well for him. Toyotas look pretty fast again this weekend. The Fords in the next-gen era have been noticeably fast on the flat tracks. I think that's part of the reason why they've won the first two championships is because they're so good at tracks like this, like Gateway, like New Hampshire. You see them contending a lot. And the Toyota camp has also been pretty good. The Chevys have tended to lag behind on the flatter racetracks. And with the new Toyotas and the new Fords this weekend, it doesn't really look like that's factoring in a whole lot to Chevrolet's success here, as Chase Elliott, although he was seventh in practice, was the only Hendrick car in the top 10 in practice. And the lap averages beyond 10 lap average run, none of the Hendrick cars were in the top 10. I think that's what's costed them at Phoenix these last couple of years in the championship, despite in 2022 Chase Elliott probably having the best season and William Byron probably having the best season last year. So just like I kind of stated, for those of you that watched the live commentary stream of the championship race weekend last year, I talked about it a bunch at the Fords. Very good in the flat tracks, and apparently they ended up winning the championship in all three series, which I didn't think was going to happen, but at least in the Cup side, I felt Blaney had at least a pretty good fighting chance because of that reason. He got it done, even though he didn't win the race. Ross Chastain was also one of the outliers as far as Chevy drivers go for this weekend based off of raw speed, and he did win at Phoenix last year. So I think primarily it's a Hendrick Motorsports issue more than just a Chevy issue when it comes to this racetrack. And I know they ended up winning in the springtime last year for whatever reason. I don't know how they really dominated that race, because on paper going into the race weekend, just like we see this weekend and any other race weekend with the next-gen car at Phoenix, that just doesn't seem to be their strong suit. We saw them struggle at New Hampshire and Gateway last year as well. So not off to a great start this weekend. We'll have to wait and see exactly what qualifying we'll have for them. Thanks for everybody tuning into the stream, though. Practice was already concluded yesterday, but qualifying is set to begin at 2:10. Excuse me, I'm fumbling all over the place here. You can tell I haven't streamed in 5 days. 2:10 Eastern time today is when the NASCAR Cup Series qualifying is set to begin. So we'll have our first car on track. You can see the qualifying order on the screen right now for the drivers who will be in Group A of qualifying. So qualifying very similar, in fact, vaguely similar to Las Vegas last week. And what we'll see at most tracks throughout the season outside of super speedways and road courses. All other ovals that are intermediate tracks or less in length, you'll have a Group A qualifying, a Group B. Top five from each group go into the second session of qualifying. Everybody who does not make it into the second session through the top 10, the inside row is going to be based on Group B's starting lineup, and the outside row will be this group here, Group A. Zane Smith will be the first car to hit the racetrack this weekend. Chris Buescher will be next, and then Harrison Burton, Derek Kraus, Kaz Grala will be the first 5. Other drivers, notable drivers at least, that are in this group, you got defending champion Ryan Blaney, who's set to roll off last. Has qualified on the pole with this next-gen car at Phoenix as well. So look out for him to be a potential front runner, not only for the race tomorrow potentially, but obviously for the pole today. Denny Hamlin, William Byron in this group, Ross Chastain, the defending track winner here. Again, he won the fall race, even though Blaney won the championship. Chase Elliott, former winner here, of course, with his championship race in 2020. So a lot of heavy hitters in this first group. I'd probably say heaviest hitters by way of star power. I do think there's more potential opportunities for pole award winners in Group B, and we'll talk about that, of course, when they end up getting there. But I'm set, ready to go. The only thing I don't have set is the fact that I don't have the broadcast on my phone yet. So let me get that pulled up. You can vote for who you think will qualify on the poll today, and I'm going to leave this up until we get to the end of the first group. Actually, until we get to the end of the first round. So Group A, Group B, I'll keep it up. And, we'll see if any of those 3 drivers that are on the list will actually make their way into the next round of qualifying or not. It looks like 2:15 is actually scheduled. Now, it was... let me turn Fox Sports 1 on real quick. What cars are on the racetrack? Yeah, 2:10. That's what I thought. 2:10. Pit box number 1 at Phoenix has won 3 of the last 7 races, which is basically the pole sitter, you would have to imagine. Starting out front at this racetrack is a must. Track position is going to be huge. We haven't seen a lot of passing with the short tracks in the next-gen era. Now, the reason there was a 50-minute practice this weekend compared to most weekends only having about a 20-minute practice session for every driver on the racetrack is because they had a new tire for this weekend. So I believe we are set to have a competition caution through tomorrow's race as well with the new tire to be put in. It did look like there was more fall off, I'd say, with this tire based off the practice times alone. Granted, it was a green racetrack for the most part yesterday as there was no prior on-track activity, so that could have factored in as well. It is supposed to be above average temperatures for this time of the year in Phoenix. I believe above 80 degrees for green flag racing tomorrow. And that is also warmer than what we had seen in the fall race these last couple of years. So I think that could factor into potentially more tire wear as well with a slicker, hotter track temperature. Michael Turner, Patrick Shadley, thanks for tuning in. Right now, 14 votes have been casted for who you think will qualify on the poll today. And William Byron at 36% of those votes, 43% for somebody other than Logano or Bell. I think the big talking point into I keep saying practice, into qualifying this weekend, I think you got to look at Joey Logano. Can he qualify on the front row for the 4th consecutive week to start the season? I did not stat poll because it would have taken a very long time, so I'm hoping Fox comes up with a stat at some point in time that we'll either get to see or listen into throughout the course of this qualifying live commentary stream. But when was the last time a driver has actually qualified on the front row for the first 4 points races in the NASCAR Cup Series? Because Logano's got a shot to do that here today. Qualified on the pole at Las Vegas last week. Also qualified on the pole at Atlanta. So he's got back-to-back poles coming into this one. And then outside of the front row, second is where he qualified at Daytona. And I think the most impressive thing with that is 2 of those tracks were super speedways and another was an intermediate track. Now we kind of have, I consider Phoenix a short track, but it's a intermediate track by way of it being a 1 mile racetrack, but it races like a short track. Very slow corners, very flat racetrack. Not very high speeds at any point in time, really, over the course of a lap here. So I would definitely rank this in as a short track, at least in my book. So if he can do it again today, then I'm convinced that he can't not qualify on the front row every single week at this point. 19 likes on the stream as well. I'm not sure what the goal is going to be. This is going to be a fairly quick live stream. Again, usually for these live commentary streams of qualifying, we would have practice and qualifying mixed in, but because it was a separate practice session last night, again, that is why we did not have practice on this live stream. So just qualifying here. NASCAR Xfinity Series was actually through their practice and qualifying session standard practice by way of the 20 minutes, Group A, Group B, and then Group A, Group B qualifying to follow. Again, no group practice. Everybody was in one giant 50-minute practice session yesterday. Zane Smith on the racetrack right now. Each driver going to get one lap to try to set a quick time. Smith starting that lap, choosing not to go down to the apron. Curious to know how many drivers are going to try to cut that dog leg in their qualifying lap. I'd imagine a lot of them are going to try to do that coming to the line. But to start the lap is going to be interesting because last week at Las Vegas, we only saw a handful of drivers start their lap down to the apron. It didn't really seem to make much of a difference. Obviously, the dog leg at Phoenix is a lot wider, way more surface area to be covered on the asphalt through both ends of the racetrack. And Zane Smith's going to time in with a 27.4 flat. So first lap in the books here for qualifying again. Zane Smith, 27.4 flat. Top 5 advance into the second session through Group A and Group B. And again, everybody outside of the top 5 positions through practice, through qualifying. Is that like the third or fourth time I've said practice today? That's insane. We only had that for 1 week, and it's still stuck in my brain for some reason. That's unbelievable. Hopefully that's the last time I say practice in that essence here today. Chris Buescher's on the racetrack next. Texas native. Had his hands full getting into turn 1 there. That's probably going to scrub some speed off. He looked a little loose on entry. Still tracking to be faster than Zane Smith. Very loose on entry into turns 3 and 4 as well. Really see the car wiggling around a ton. He's a couple tenths quicker than the 71 of Smith. 27.189 was Chris Buescher's lap time. I don't think that's going to stand. His car definitely did not look stable at all. Mentioned the track temp's fairly warm here this weekend in Phoenix compared to recent years. Events at this racetrack at both the spring and the fall, and maybe that could have factored into some of the handling issues that we ended up seeing there. Harrison Burton for the Wood Brothers is the next on the racetrack. 39th, 11th, and 30th in his first 3 races this season. At 11th coming at Atlanta. Definitely needs a solid run here this weekend at Phoenix. Burton in his 3rd year in the NASCAR Cup Series, all with this 21. And he is pacing faster than Chris Buescher for right now. At least by way of the Ghost car. And it looked like, I think they had Buescher and Burton mixed up on the Ghost car there. I was going to say, because it was in the red on the tracking indicator down at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. Regan Smith standing with last fall's Phoenix winner, Ross Chastain.
I do have to say, first of all, my Uncle Doug Miller is officially retiring from the farm. He worked with my grandfather, my dad, and my younger brother, Chad. Spent his life at the watermelon farm, so he's finally stepping back from our family farm to enjoy retired life. So, hey, Uncle Doug, happy for you and Aunt Carla. But for here and us and our Kubota Chevy, I don't know. Qualifying, y'all documented it ever since this Gen 7 car came up. Struggled. So we had a good fall and spring, I guess, qualifying both last year. A lot of work over the last really 16, 18 months. But for us to start in the top 10 would be the goal, get that second round again. But I have no idea what to expect. Our car was really tight yesterday. And if we're going to give $10,000 more to the Farmer Veteran Coalition for Kubota for the top 10 finish tomorrow, we need a good starting spot. And I didn't have a great feeling yesterday for single lap speed, so we'll see what all the changes with. I think we changed 3 different springs in the car, so we'll see.
Good luck, Ross. Lots to think about there.
So Harrison Burton timed in against second fastest. His lap time is a 27.341. On the racetrack during Ross Chastain's interview was the 16 car of Derek Kraus making his second consecutive start in the Cup Series here this weekend for Colleague Racing, and he is now 3rd on the charts of the 4 that have made a lap. His lap time is a 27.388. Kaz Grala is now the next car on the racetrack. Much like Harrison Burton, needs a better run this weekend. One top 15 finish in these first 3 races. That was a 14th place run at Atlanta. The other finishes outside the top 30. Track temp right now is 70 degrees, 103 70 degrees for the air temp, I should say. Track temp 103. It'll be slightly warmer tomorrow, and obviously still local time fairly early in the Phoenix area, as it is still about 11:15 in the morning. I got a time change coming up here, of course, this weekend. So I think Arizona does not have a time change, and I found that out when I was there. It's like one of the few states that don't. So uh, as far as their local time, I guess that would still be about the same tomorrow. But don't forget to change those clocks back. Most of them do it automatically nowadays, but I should say move them forward, not move them back. Don't listen to me. I've been all over the place with the stream by way of vocabulary so far. It's verbal issues at the many. Wade Solinsky, thanks for tuning in. Tracks am I attending this year? I'm not entirely sure right now. I'd like Michigan. I would imagine I'd probably end up going back there. I'd like to get to Richmond as well, just because it's on my birthday this year. But I have no exact timetable. I don't want to tell you guys I'm going to a race and then something happened where I'm not going to a race like we had a couple times last year. So I'll know more in detail when we get closer to it. But I can guarantee it won't be till the summer months at least. Congrats though for you and your parents going to Talladega this week or this year. Is that the spring race or the fall race they're headed to? Should be a blast. Been there many, many times. I'm definitely not going to be at Dega this year, which is unfortunate because that'll end my streak of, 4 years in a row I've been there. Got a spin. Sorry for that. Josh Berry off turn 4 goes for a spin here in qualifying. And by the time he got it corrected back in the right direction, it was before he had gotten to the start-finish line. Got down on the apron. Got on the paint. And it looked like he did get into the outside wall with the left front fender of that race car. So a little bit of damage on the Sunny D Ford of Josh Berry. Again, he has gone for a spin off turn 4. Got the left side tires down a little bit below that yellow line on the inside of 3 and 4. And around he went. Slight contact with the outside wall. That lap time, he ended up timing in with a 38.424. Unless we see any other incidences today, Barry's going to be at the very bottom of our leaderboard all afternoon through qualifying and obviously headed back to the garage. And it does look like there's a significant amount of damage to that left front. It bowed in quite a bit. It's going to be interesting to see if it's going to end up sending him to a backup car. Regan Smith now standing with William Byron.
The track's got in it capability-wise.
Yeah, I try not to read too much into it, but definitely don't read into my Xfinity qualifying lap. Going out first was not ideal. So it was super slick in that car, but I think our race pace is good in the HendrickCars.com Chevy. But yeah, get back in the Cup car, just thinking about the typical things that you focus on here, making sure I cut the dog leg correctly, and then just making sure I don't blow the entries and trying to get a good entry and get my mid-corner speed right and just have a smooth lap. So we had a good lap here in the fall, and I think both times we were in the top 5. So we'll see. Yesterday was a bit of a struggle, but I think we made a lot of changes, and I feel like we're going to hit it a lot better today.
All right, good luck. Go get you a good one.
Bubba Wallace on the racetrack. He's the first that's going to actually cut the dog leg down to the apron for his qualifying lap. Again, I wondered how many drivers would do that today. None of the first 5 did, 6 I should say did. And Bubba Wallace, the 7th driver to hit the racetrack for qualifying, is going to cut to the apron. Nice looking U.S. Air Force paint scheme on that car this weekend. I've always thought over the years a lot of the military branch paint schemes have always been really good, whether that be for the Air Force. I remember back in the Ricky Rudd days had a pretty nice looking U.S. Air Force scheme. Eric Almirola there a couple different times. I know on the Daytona weekend they would usually go with, when it was on the 4th of July, they would usually have quite a few different looking schemes there. So Bubba Wallace second fastest with a 27.303, a little over a tenth of a second still behind our top time of Chris Buescher. And I'm surprised that Wallace was not able to make up enough time to beat Buescher just because of how unsteady Buescher's car looked to be during his lap. Buescher's teammate and team owner, Brad Keselowski, though, is going to be up next. This is going to be a good gauge, I think, of how fast the RFK Fords are here. Is Keselowski going to time going to be better or worse than Buescher's lap time? Right now it's tracking in the green, at least for the top 5, but I don't think it is going to be tracking well enough to get to Buescher's lap time unless he has a very successful turns 3 and 4. Staying above that yellow line. And feeds it out to the wall. Second fastest for Keselowski, 27.203. It was actually fairly close to Buescher's time, and that's why they are 1-2 at the top of the leaderboard. A 14 1,000th of a second difference between Buescher's lap and Keselowski's lap. So it looks like the RFK Fords are bringing some speed and qualifying here today through the first 8 cars that have hit the racetrack. 18 are scheduled for this Group A, and again, the top 5 advance to the second session. Austin Dillon still in search for his first top 15 finish this season. His best was a week ago at Las Vegas, where he finished 16th. Had a good car, was in the top 10 for a large majority of the second half of that race. Ended up falling back, though, in the late going. So trying to capitalize on a good starting position here today. Just like Bubba Wallace, it looks like Dillon going to cut down to the apron through the dogleg. And it's really tough to tell also with Wallace's lap whether that helped or hurt him necessarily. It's definitely going to hurt the entry into turn 1. You're going to enter a lot more flatter. You're not going to be able to pick up the speed on the backstretch as quickly as you would if you did not go to the apron through the dogleg. But it does take the distance down quite a bit. And it creates more passing opportunities when the field is bunched together and restarts. So we'll see that in the race quite a bit today. But again, not every driver going to be doing that through qualifying. Dillon will unsuccessfully attempt to get into the top 5. He's 7th on the board out of the first 9 drivers, 27.455 for Austin. So Dillon will not make it into Group B. So your top 9 as of drivers who have gone so far get Chris Buescher first, Brad Keselowski 2nd, Wallace 3rd, Harrison Burton 4th, Derek Kraus 5th. And then you got Zane Smith, Austin Dillon, Kaz Grala, Josh Berry. 9 drivers still to go in this second group. The next to hit the racetrack will be Austin Cindric when they come back from the commercial break. After Cindric will be Stenhouse, Hocevar, Eric Jones, Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, William Byron, Ross Chastain, and Ryan Blaney. So that will round out this first group of qualifying here today. Lensig, thanks for tuning in. Greetings from Finland. Where can I watch NASCAR? I can't even see it via Play site where it usually shown in Europe. I couldn't tell you there. I know in the US it would be on Fox Sports 1 for today's coverage for both qualifying as well as the Xfinity race and the Cup races on a local Fox affiliate. But I don't know how that works internationally, to be completely honest. So I can't really help you there. Apologize for that. Matt Hunter, thanks for tuning in. Reddick is who I'm watching this weekend. Angry, talented driver, dangerous one. And he has had good runs at Phoenix in the past, with fast race cars specifically. And the Toyotas looked pretty good yesterday in practice, so I don't think that's a bad pick. Sarah India, thanks for tuning in. Looks like Fords are better today. And yeah, I mentioned it right before we saw our first car hit the track for qualifying, but the Fords on these flat racetracks with the next-gen car have been nearly untouchable. And if they do get beat, it's on a rare occurrence. You know, the Phoenix spring race last year was dominated by Byron and Larson, and Byron went on to win early in the season last year. But the Fords at Gateway, New Hampshire, of course, although Bell won last year, a lot of Fords just behind him. And it was kind of like that at the end of the Gen 6 era too, but even more so, I think, with the next-gen era that you're seeing the Fords kind of dominate the race. You know, if it's not in a lap sled category, they fill out the majority of the top 10 more often than not. I mean, that's part of the reason why even Harvick on his decline the last couple of years has still steadily been very fast at Phoenix. We saw him lead laps in the championship race last year. I mentioned that's part of the reason why I think at least that Penske won the championship both of the last 2 seasons with Logano in 22 and Blaney last year in 23. Chase Briscoe got a win with the next-gen car at Phoenix as well, his only career Cup win. At the end of the Gen 6 era, we saw Eric Almirola, who's outside the top 20 in points, perform out of nowhere on a track like New Hampshire. But it made sense going into that weekend because I even remember I had him predicted to at least get a top 10 finish as a sleeper pick. I didn't think he'd go on to win because he had had great runs at both, Phoenix races over the last year or so before that. And he's had good runs even at Gateway when Almirola was in the Cup Series the last couple of years. So definitely look out for the Fords, I think, this weekend. Chevy's going to have a handful, I think, in trying to get the race win this weekend because the Toyotas looked pretty fast collectively in practice yesterday, too. And I would like some of those drivers to potentially win the race if a Ford doesn't go to victory lane, but I don't like a lot of the Chevys this weekend. They just have not unloaded with great speed. We haven't seen a very competitive one hit the racetrack yet. Austin Dillon, though, was behind both a Quality Chevy and a Spire Chevy. Regan Smith standing with Noah Gragson coming off the heels of a top 10 finish at his home track in Vegas last week.
About it, I've never done it in the Cup car, so I'm a little afraid to do it. Not gonna lie, but my crew chief wants me to, so I'm going to. And I'm just worried about hitting my entry into 1 and not messing up my entry through 1 and 2. We kind of struggled in the Surf Pro number 10 Ford Mustang yesterday on our short run speed, but I feel like we have really, really good long run speed. Drew Blick and Surf and the rest of this 10 group, they've been doing a great job all year. We're continuing to build our confidence and just growing as a team week in and week out. It's been great to be able to accelerate that process with great teammates like Chase, Josh, Ryan. We've all been working really hard together, and it's grateful to be back, grateful to be a part of it. I don't know how this qualifying deal is going to turn out, but I know we got a great car for the race.
Good luck on that dog leg over there.
All right, he's off to a good start.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. on the track as Noah Gragson was getting interviewed there, as you heard from him. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. with a third-place run so far through qualifying. His lap time dropped in at a 27.277. Average speed of Buescher's lap time, which is still at the top, is a 132.406 average speed for that lap. Regan Smith now standing in with former Phoenix winner Chase Briscoe.
So, yeah, it's definitely interesting. The last couple times we've been here, nobody's really done it in qualifying, so it's kind of surprising, I guess, to see guys doing it. But one guy did it, went to the top of the board, so now we're all probably going to start doing it. So, yeah, we've had good speed in our Mahindra Driver Sport all year. We haven't had the finishes necessarily to show for it, but hopefully we can put a whole weekend together starting this weekend.
All right, good luck. Thanks, Chase.
Carson Hocevar now on the racetrack. He's had great speed the last couple of weeks, really overall to start the season. I mentioned he has qualified fairly well this year and was the top Chevy in long run speed yesterday in practice. So Carson Hocevar could be a rookie at least to look out for this weekend. He's going to get into the top 5 and actually all the way to the top for Carson Hocevar. 27.133. 0.05 of a second quicker than the RFK Fords of Buescher and Keselowski. So how about Carson Hocevar cutting to the top? I mentioned he's had great speed, and I think he's actually qualified inside the top 10 a couple of times this year. I know he did for the 500, and he also did for Vegas last week. So Carson Hocevar, way to go. Great rookie campaign so far, in my opinion, even though we're just a few races in. Still looking for that first top 10 finish, but great speed in qualifying today, and he's had great speed throughout the weekend. Again, one of the top Chevys. I think he could have a solid day tomorrow by the way things look right now, and he may have a shot at the pole if he transfers through the top 5. Still some heavy hitters left after him. Eric Jones is the next car on the racetrack right now. Bubba Wallace is the last driver in the top 5 for the moment. I'm not sure that a 27.303 is going to hold for him, but we'll have to wait and see. Affiliated teammate with Jones at Legacy Motor Club in a Toyota, and he goes to the top. 27.116 for Eric Jones. All right, so Hocevar's lap time didn't hold for very long. We may see a driver, honestly, top that 27-second lap mark. If not in this group, but the more laps that we get, seems to be better and better for the drivers going out later in qualifying, which tends to be the case more often than not on any given racetrack. But it's back-to-back drivers to get to the top of the charts here. We still have 5 to go, and right now we have Chase Elliott. 3 top 15s for Elliott through the first 3 races, but still no top 10s so far this season for him. Really looking to pick up the pace a little bit here in the early going of the year. He knows how important those points are based off of his situation and missing the playoffs a season ago. Although he missed a handful of races, you just never know what could happen. And Elliott will time in to the top 5, and I think he's going to go to the top. Nope, not quite to the top. 3 Chevys at the top, though, right now. Chase Elliott with a 27.137 is going to slide in third. So that puts Buescher and Keselowski on the bubble. That will lock Eric Jones into group, I should say the second session here. So from Group A, Eric Jones is going to be locked into Session 2, and he'll get another shot at a qualifying lap. Denny Hamlin, William Byron, Ross Chastain, and Ryan Blaney are the final 4. Hamlin is out there right now. 1923rd to start the season on the Super Speedway. Has been 8th place run on the first non-Super Speedway track last week at Vegas. And a Brakes Plus paint scheme for Hamlin this weekend. That's a new sponsor that he'll be debuting at this racetrack this weekend for Joe Gibbs Racing. Not taking the time to go to the dog leg was Denny Hamlin. He looks pretty good when he gets back into the throttle. I noticed right before he got into the braking zone in turn 1 and right off the exit of turn 2 is really where he picked up a lot of time on his qualifying lap. Still tracking green, and now it's Hamlin to the top of the chart. So much like yesterday in practice where the Toyotas looked fairly quick for the most part, even though Logano was at the top of the charts, the mid and long run speed was there. And here on qualifying day, the short run speed, that 1 lap time trial lap, seems to be the case here. 2 of the 3 Toyotas in this first group are first and second. Denny Hamlin with a 27.022 is very, very close to that 26-second lap barrier. Hamlin is locked into the second session. William Byron, the second Hendrick Motorsports car to hit the track, and the second of 2 Hendrick cars in this first group. Byron cuts to the apron. Hamlin did not go to the apron on his lap and was able to get to the top. Byron does go to the apron and is pacing to get into the top 5, and he does. A 27.106 for William Byron. He will lock himself into the second session. That will bump out Chris Buescher, so no Fords in the top 5 currently. Still one more Ford to go in this group, that being defending champ Ryan Blaney. Ross Chastain is going to be the next to hit the racetrack, though, before Blaney goes. So Hamlin, Byron, Jones locked into the second session. Hocevar, Elliott on the bubble. 0.08 of a second, the difference between Hamlin and Byron and P1 and P2 on our leaderboard. And again, Hamlin's lap time is a 27.022, average speed of 133.225 miles per hour. Chastain, the defending track winner. Again, the first driver to win a race in the Championship 4 race, or the final race of the season, I should say, in the Championship 4 era. NASCAR that isn't one of those playoff drivers remaining contending for the title. Mentioned he didn't feel that he had a lot of speed for qualifying coming into the race today, but on his qualifying lap, may back those statements up just a little bit. Sails it off into turn 3. As he works to the exit of turn 4, he might have made up enough ground to get into the top 5. It was close though, 27.161. 6th place for Chastain, barely missing out on the top 5. Pushes those top Fords down the leaderboard just a bit. Ryan Blaney will be the final driver to work his way out. Hocevar locked into session 2 now. So it's going to be between Chase Elliott and Ryan Blaney for that final spot to get into this next group. Blaney's off to a hot start this season, looking like one of the early Championship 4 competitors. Back-to-back top 3 finishes, and don't forget about that Busch Clash, even though it was an exhibition race. Also had a top 3 despite starting last that day. He's had some very, very fast cars. He's done well with them. He hasn't led a lot of laps, but he is up there in contention for solid top 5 runs, and that was something that was missing throughout the regular season for Blaney last year. Turned it on late in the playoffs, and he's really picking up from where he left off at the end of last year. A little bit too deep on his drive in through turn 1. Lost some ground to where Chase Elliott's lap time was, and he's going to have to pick up a lot in turns 3 and 4. Picks up a little bit in the first half of the corner, a little bit of a moment off the exit, scrubs some speed off, and that's going to cost him. That exit to turn 4, you can really see him working the wheel quite a bit on the in-car camera. And 8th fastest is where Ryan Blaney will end up through Group A. So your top 5, again, Denny Hamlin, William Byron, Eric Jones, Carson Hocevar, Chase Elliott. Those were the top 5 drivers through Group A. They will move on to the second session to have a shot at the pole once our Group B qualifiers go out on the racetrack. So setting up the inside row, or the outside row, I should say, for tomorrow's race will be everybody from 6th through 18th. And 6th through 18th in Group B qualifying will set up the inside row. 36 cars here at the track this weekend. There are no no non-chartered entries racing this weekend. Second consecutive week that we have seen that. Stanley C. Panther, thanks for tuning in. Cheyenne, also welcome to the stream. Irina Sayre, thanks for tuning in. Cindric is a dark horse pick for tomorrow. He's been my sleeper pick for the first 3 races this season. I got to pick somebody that's not Cindric this weekend. But he has done well so far this year, so it's hard not to pick him. He's off to a good start this season. Got 26 likes on the stream. Be sure to hit that like button if you guys haven't done so yet. Trying to get up to 50 here before the end of the stream. Again, there was no practice session, so the stream's going to be fairly short, especially when you consider the fact that it's a 1-mile racetrack. The lap times are going to be quicker than what we'd see at like a super speedway with this style of live commentary stream where there's no practice and only qualifying. We'll get back to the regular practice and qualifying session with 20-minute practice period at Bristol for next weekend in our live stream there. The NASCAR Xfinity Series will also have their first off weekend next weekend at Bristol. The Truck Series will be back on, so it'll be a Truck and Cup Series weekend at Bristol. Again, Xfinity Series will be off. So only Saturday and Sunday streams again next week, just like we saw here this weekend. Yeah, no Fords in the top 5 through this first group. A few Fords will start us off for Group B. Ryan Preece, Ty Gillen, Justin Haley will be the first 3, followed by Christopher Bell, who I think could have a reasonable shot at the win tomorrow. Corey LaJoie, 5th. McDowell, Hemrick, Nemechek, Briscoe. They will be the first 9 on the racetrack here for this next group. And again, Ryan Preece is on the track right now. Top 5 from Group A and Group B will have a second lap of time trial running to set the pole, well, to try to go for the pole, but to set the top 10 starting order for tomorrow. Everybody beyond the top 5 from each group, again, their starting positions will be determined based on the group that they were in, obviously in accordance to the lap times ran in that descending order. Joey Logano at the Hunt Brothers Pizza Paint Scheme this week, and that's a little unique. Regan Smith standing with him.
Learn something from that? I mean, just as much as you guys do by watching. Just talk to my guys, see if they see anything. But that qualifying as of lately has been pretty good for the 22. We got the new colors on the car this week with Hunt Brothers Pizza, so hopefully we can give it a good run. It was good in practice, so hopefully we're able to turn that into a good qualifying run. Thanks, Joey.
He was very uncertain about being able to go for the front row again last weekend based off of his practice time speed, but he was able to do it, and he was able to get the pole along with it. We'll see if Logano could go for 4 consecutive front row starts here today. Again, he was fastest in practice yesterday, but as far as today goes, it's a new day. We haven't seen the Fords qualify particularly well today, but you never know. Guess if there was one driver for that Ford camp to count on potentially getting the pole, it would be Logano. He's done it a couple times already this season. Ryan Preece's lap time is a 27.390. He was on the track when Logano was getting interviewed. Todd Gilliland has just wrapped his lap time up, and he times in with a 27.398 just behind Preece. So 2 drivers into this second group. Justin Haley will be the third. Finishes of 26th, 20th, and 27th for Haley through the first 3 races of 2024. He's doing a good job taking care of his equipment, though, for the most part this season and getting those roughly 20th place runs in his new team, Rick Ware Racing. I don't know that Rick Ware Racing's had a full-time driver in the Cup Series outside of Cody Ware, maybe ever, to run a full Cup Series schedule. Third of 3 in Group B for Haley, 27.479. Had to run a 27.1 to get into the final 5, or that top 5 through that first group, and we haven't even seen anybody run above a 27.3 yet, so here goes nothing for Christopher Bell. Third in the Daytona 500, and then 2 finishes outside the top 30 in the 2 races after that. Had a rough weekend last week at Vegas, had a couple of different incidences, brought out 2 of only 3 cautions for incident all day long, including that last one in the final half of stage 3. Caused him to finish a couple laps off the lead lap, and for Bell here this weekend, I think he's got a chance to try to not only go for the pole today, but have a chance to go for the win tomorrow. It's the fastest Toyota in practice through the longer lap averages of that 20 to 25, 30 lap averages. Bell was towards the top of the charts there and fastest in the Toyota camp, and he was either fastest in those categories or second fastest. And I think Bell could be slated to be a good driver to go for the win. He won on a flat racetrack last season at New Hampshire. I think that factors in pretty well. It's one of his better racetracks, and although in the championship races at Phoenix, when he's made it to the championship for the last couple of years, the speed hasn't been there. He has had better runs in the spring races. And here today, he is the first of 4 qualifiers through Group B. Lap time for Bell was a 27.206, so Bell to the top. Had to get a 27.1, though, to get into the first 5. So that's gonna be interesting if that lap time is gonna actually hold up. Corey LaJoie up next. He's the 5th driver to hit the track in this second group, Group B. His teammate Carson Hocevar was able to make it into the final 5. But the lap time looked to have dipped quite a bit here for LaJoie through turns 1 and 2. Definitely looked like his car pushed out pretty wide. Seemed to be a little too tight. Might have been the case again in turns 3 and 4 as well. Pretty slow lap time for LaJoie. That's definitely not going to hold up in the top 5. 27.877. That's one of the slowest times we've seen today. So Zane Smith was towards the bottom of the leaderboard, as well as Corey LaJoie, but their teammate of Carson Hocevar, again, was able to get a top 10 starting spot this weekend, as he has already locked into Group A's final session. And they all went fairly early, too. Hocevar later than Zane Smith and Corey LaJoie in their groups, but relatively early. Arizona native Michael McDowell at his home track this weekend, setting his qualifying lap as we speak. 6th driver to hit the racetrack. Very fast lap through the first half. Good off the exit of turn 4. Michael McDowell is going to cut to the top of the charts with a 27.091. The only lap times that was behind from the first group was Denny Hamlin and William Byron. So McDowell looking like he's going to be at least quick enough to make it into that final qualifying session. Only Ford to have a lap time in the sub-27.2s. Tyler Reddick is now standing with Regan Smith for an interview.
Yeah, but, I think for today, it's great to see that our mobile Toyota Camry has the speed that it does to take off on new tires, and that's what's really important today. So we have some more time to work on some of that other stuff as well, but yeah, it's just going to be all about executing the lap here. So trying to see what some of these other competitors have some notes to go off of from the 23. Unfortunately, they didn't really get the lap they wanted out of it, so we'll be as ready as we can be, and hopefully put the whole lap together.
Good luck in qualifying. Thanks.
A little bit of slippage through turns 1 and 2 for Daniel Hemrick on the racetrack right now. Hemrick should get into the top 5 for the moment, but I don't think his lap time is going to hold by any means. As we've only had 7 drivers make a lap, Hemrick will be the third of those 7, dropping to 27.290, ahead of the 3 Fords of Priest, Gill, and Haley. But Michael McDowell, the lone Ford, at the very top of the charts right now. Couple more Fords still to go, including the next 2 to hit the racetrack after John Hunter Nemechek. Nemechek is on the track right now, Toyota. His teammate Eric Jones was able to make it into Group A's final 5, so we'll see if the teammate of Jones, Nemechek, can also do the same thing. Denny Hamlin was the fastest, of course, in that group. Christopher Bell is second of the first 7 that have gone in Group B. Nemechek going to the apron on his qualifying lap through the dogleg. It's been pretty much 50-50 whether drivers actually go down there or not. And I don't know whether that's really helped or hurt. Hamlin did not go to the apron for his qualifying lap to get to the fastest time we've seen so far in qualifying of over 20 drivers that have made a lap. And William Byron did go to the apron and was second, about 0.08 of a second behind Hamlin. So tough to say for sure. I think it's just the overall speed in the car and the driver's ability to get that car to the top, I think, is ultimately the difference maker here. Kyle Larson now with an interview.
Be tight, the gap between cars. So we'll see here. But, my Valvoline Chevy, we didn't lay down like a fast lap yesterday, so to speak. But, typically in qualifying here, we're able to go really quick. So just trying to hit my marks here and carry the right speed without getting yourself loose in or whatnot. So it's always fun qualifying here. So look forward to it, and hopefully we can do a good job.
Thanks, Scott.
All right, so Chase Briscoe on the racetrack right now, and then I'm sure they'll get that commercial break in following Briscoe's run. Nearly 100 and actually a little over 161 miles an hour into that first turn for Briscoe. Yeah, slowest lap time of the front 5 in that first group is 27.137. And that was Chase Elliott who got in. Nemechek's time is a 27.278. He is third fastest. And now it's going to be fourth fastest as Briscoe's going to go towards the top. Not the very top, though. Second place for Briscoe, the 27.133. Briscoe's lap, 0.04 of a second off of McDowell's time. So 9 drivers in, 9 to go. Still in Group B, and then we'll have the final 10 trying to requalify for those starting 10 positions for tomorrow's Shriners Children's 500 at Phoenix. Appreciate everybody tuning in here this afternoon for our first of 2 live commentary streams. We've got the NASCAR Xfinity Series race coverage starting at 4:30 Eastern Time here today. So again, 4:30 Eastern Time, a little over an hour and a half from now, we'll have our Xfinity Series live commentary race coverage. Tomorrow's Cup Series action on the channel will begin at 3 p.m. Eastern. Thanks again, everybody, for watching. We'll take our first ad break of this qualifying commentary stream. You're listening live on KRC. iRacing 413, thanks for tuning in. I had to bet Logano will pull, Bell will win the race. Couple of good predictions there. I could see both of those happening. Earl Arnold Jr., thanks for tuning in. Hello to you too. 34 likes on the stream. Let's get that up to 50 here before the end of our qualifying live stream. The final 9 drivers that still have to hit the racetrack for the first time in qualifying today would include Noah Gragson, as he'll be the next car to hit the racetrack, then Kyle Busch, Alex Bowman, Joey Logano, Daniel Suarez, Ty Gibbs, Tyler Reddick, Martin Truex Jr., and Kyle Larson. So 3 more Toyotas. We've seen a lot of speed out of them so far today. And the Fords in Group A, again, no Group A Fords made it into the top 5. Michael McDowell, Chase Briscoe, though, both their lap times were in that category to potentially get him in. And I do like McDowell's lap time at 27.0. We only saw 2 other drivers do that. That was the top 2 in that first group. I think McDowell's time will hold. Briscoe's is going to be close. Elliott's lap time, who was 5th of that first group, was a 27.137. Briscoe about 4/1000ths of a second quicker than that. But again, we've got 3 Toyotas still to go. Kyle Larson's up there. We saw, obviously, Byron qualify in the top 2 in that first round. So it's going to be tough. Joey Logano's still yet to go. It's going to be fun to watch how this plays out. I definitely think it's going to be a lot tighter than what that first group was, by way of who makes it in and who doesn't through the top 5. Noah Gragson starting his lap. Does not cut the dog leg down. His crew chief wanted him to. He specified on that in his interview, which took place during the Group A drivers qualifying run. Gragson didn't feel comfortable doing that because he hadn't done it in a Cup car yet. Stuck with his gut, and it looks like it's going to pan out for him for right now. He's going to get into the top 5. And that makes it now 3 Fords at the top of Group B's qualifying run. 27.176 for Gragson. He's 3rd fastest. Just got in ahead of Christopher Bell. Kyle Busch warming the tires up. As he exits pit road, he'll pick up the speed now. 3rd place run in that historic Atlanta Motor Speedway finish for Busch a couple of weeks ago. No other top 10s through the first 3 races to show for. At top 10 speed last weekend at Vegas, had a speeding penalty in the final stage, resulted in a 26th place finish off the lead lap for him. Busch ending his warm-up lap now as he crosses the line. See if he cuts to the apron. He does not go to the apron. His teammate Austin Dillon did. Got the left sides down under the yellow line in the apex of the dogleg, but that was about it. Staying just above that yellow line through turns 1 and 2. Decent drive off, but it's going to be tough to get a lap time not only in the top 5, but one that will hold there as well. Losing time through 3 and 4. And Busch is going to start in the middle of the pack tomorrow as he's 9th fastest through this second group of qualifiers right now out of 11 that have taken the track. 27.422 for Busch. So the RCR car is going to have some work cut out for both of them tomorrow as they'll be starting in the back half of the field. Alex Bowman will be the next driver to hit the racetrack, second in the Daytona 500 to that of his teammate William Byron, followed by a 27th place finish at Atlanta and an 18th place finish last week at Las Vegas. As far as Bowman goes, he's the second of 2 drivers to hit the racetrack today. That is from Arizona, and this being their home track. The other, of course, Michael McDowell, who is at the very top of the charts. Bowman's teammate in that first group, William Byron and Chase Elliott for that matter, both of them got into the final group. Bowman's pacing very close to the lap time of Nemechek through the first 2/3 of the lap, just working his way off turn 4 right now, and Bowman's going to be slower than Nemechek, so Bowman will not get into the top 5. 27.311 for Alex Bowman. He'll be the 3rd of 3 Hendrick cars that have hit the track today, and he'll be the first of which to not make it into a second qualifying lap through that second session. So Alex Bowman will not get to qualify again today. And here comes Joey Logano, trying to go for the front row for the 4th consecutive race to start the 2024 campaign. 1st at Daytona, 2nd at Atlanta, 1st at Vegas. Trying to go for another one here. Got 3 Fords at the top of this group so far. Though the Penske Fords, specifically of Cindric and Blaney in that first group, did not make it into the front 5. Though Logano was quicker than both of them in practice yesterday, fastest of anybody, in fact, in practice overall. He's pacing faster than Nemechek, at least right now. Didn't get off turn 2 as well as what he was through the first 2/3 of that corner. That lap time marker started to drop quite a bit towards the end of the backstretch. We'll see if he picks it up off of turn 4. Logano will not get into the top 5. 7th fastest so far, 27.309. So all 3 Penske Fords will fail to make it into a second qualifying lap and fail to get into the top 5 in their groups. And now that streak of top 2 qualifying runs, front row starts for Joey Logano has now come to an end. Yeah, he had a good run, though. He had a good run. I'm sure we'll see him towards the front on race day. Again, the Fords have been pretty good on the flat racetracks. Their speed, though, lacking in qualifying for the most part today, excluding, of course, the few that are still towards the top right now. Chris Davis, thanks for tuning in. You're wondering where Elliott is at. Elliott was in Group A, and he was 5th fastest, so you'll get to see him on the racetrack one more time trying to go for the pole yet. Daniel Suarez is on the racetrack now. One of the 3 drivers who have won a race so far this season. Chevrolet has won the first 3 races, with Byron winning the 500, Suarez winning at Atlanta, and of course Kyle Larson getting the win last week at Las Vegas. Chastain was not able to make it into a second session of qualifying. Suarez gets up to 5th on his qualifying lap, drops to 27.230 just a second ago, and I'm not sure that time is going to hold, considering, again, 3 Toyotas and Kyle Larson still to go, but we'll see. That does lock Michael McDowell into the top 5. McDowell cannot fall below 5th. Ty Gibbs is up next. It'll be Gibbs, Reddick, Truex, and Kyle Larson to round things out through Group B of qualifying. Gibbs qualified pretty well here in the fall race last year. I believe he started top 10. Fixing his visor a little bit there on the front stretch. I'm not sure if that was going to cause any time. I think that's when he went to the apron through the dog leg. It probably opened it a bit. Got both hands on the wheel before he had to turn to make it into turn 1. And so far, it's still a pretty good lap for Ty Gibbs. Has to be solid through turns 3 and 4. And he is. Gibbs into the top 5. That's going to bump Suarez out. And Ty Gibbs will sit 3rd fastest with a 27.160. So that doesn't lock him necessarily into the top 5 yet, but close. It does lock Briscoe into the top 5. Bumps Christopher Bell down to the bubble as he is now currently 5th with Tyler Reddick next on track. Runner-up for Reddick last weekend came a close 2nd as he finished 2nd in all 3 stages. Solid points day for Tyler, but looking to get to victory lane here in this one today, and we'll see if he can do it. 8 starts, only 2 top 10 starts, though, for Reddick at Phoenix. His best finish at the racetrack is 3rd. Warm-up lap completed here for Reddick as he now cuts the dog leg. Just like his teammate Bubba Wallace did in the first group, he's going to do the same. Tell how much of a difference it makes on the Ghost car until they get into the middle of turns 1 and 2, and there's a lot more off-throttle time to make the corner because of a lower apex for the drivers that go to the dog leg, and that's when the Ghost car catches back up with them. That was the case there, but Reddick was able to keep the hammer down through 3 and 4, extend that gap over Bell, and Tyler Reddick is going to get the 2nd fastest on the board and only 5 1/1000ths of a second off of McDowell's top time here in Group B. 27.096 for Reddick. That will lock him in to the top 5 through Group B. So McDowell, Reddick, Briscoe are locked in. 2 qualifiers to go in the second group. First, Martin Truex Jr., followed by Kyle Larson. Gibbs and Gregson are on the bubble. Bell has just gotten bumped out of the top 5 after Reddick moving up to 2nd place on the board. First top 10 of the year last weekend at Vegas for Truex, a 7th place finish there. Had top 10 speed the whole day. Pretty much ran about 6th through 10th most of the race. So getting that first solid finish under his belt. Although he has finished top 15 the first 3 races this year. That one a little bit better and looking to get even better again this weekend. First, trying to get a good starting spot for this race. Through turns 1 and 2, he is tracking in the green by only a few hundredths of a second over what Gregson's lap time was. Gregson drove it in a lot deeper through turn 3. Truex going to carry the momentum off the exit. It's going to be close, but just short of Gregson's lap time. 6th fastest for Truex, a 27.205. And Gragson will hold on to that final spot by 0.03 of a second. And Kyle Larson will now be the last driver. And the nice-looking Valvoline paint scheme this weekend for Larson. His first top 10 of the year was a win last week at Vegas. After an 11th place run in the 500 and 32nd after getting into an incident in the middle going at Atlanta. Larson just about to finish up his warm-up lap. Oh boy, he got a little bit below that yellow line. We saw Josh Berry spin in that first group of qualifying after getting his left sides down below the yellow line, so Larson's got to be careful. It's a risky game he was playing with, and he does cut a little bit below the yellow line in turns 1 and 2. That's a little bit safer, flatter corner than what 3 and 4 is. A little bit more banking on the other side of the track. Got to stay above that line here. He goes a little bit below it, but he's able to handle his race car. He slipped up off the exit of the corner, though, as a result of that, and that will cost him. So maybe diving his apex a little too deep hurt Larson. 9th fastest for him. Gragson is going to get a top 10 starting spot as he is going to get that final transfer spot through Group B. So the 5 drivers, again, from Group B that will qualify for the pole, or have a chance to qualify for the pole. Michael McDowell with a 27.091 was fastest by 5/1000ths of a second over Tyler Reddick, who was second, followed by Chase Briscoe, Ty Gibbs, and Noah Gragson. The only 3 Fords to make it into the top 10 for this weekend's race, all in this Group B of qualifying. No Chevys from Group B advanced in this one, but we did have 3 Chevys from Group A that made it in there. So 3 Chevys, 3 Fords, and 4 Toyotas will make up the top 10 for tomorrow's race. We'll have to see who is going to actually get that number 1 spot, and number 1 pit box, all important here at this very lengthy pit road at Phoenix. Hopeful Riley, thanks for tuning in. Dad's a Gregson fan. Well, he must be happy after that qualifying run. And last week, yeah, of course, getting a top 10 run. 2 top 10s in the first 3 races this season for Gregson. Solid start to the year. Kind of came up out of nowhere in the final stage last week. He was outside the top 10, but they found something late in that race and had a great finish as a result. Kept it clean. We'll take our final ad break of this qualifying stream. You're listening live on KRC. 10 drivers still to qualify for this race. And again, everybody that finished 6th through 18th in this second group will line up on the inside row for tomorrow's race from 11th on back. A couple of underdogs trying to go for the pole that don't have a win in the Cup Series, but maybe have a shot at the pole today. Ty Gibbs, Carson Hocevar, Noah Gragson, also 3 of them. There's your list of 10 drivers on the screen now that will roll off in this group. Not all in that order either. That is not the correct order, but that is the list of 10 drivers who will be trying to go for the pole here today. Denny Hamlin had the quickest lap time overall of a 27.022. And although McDowell was the fastest in Group B, he was actually 3rd fastest overall behind Hamlin and then also behind William Byron. Once again, a reminder for our streams for the rest of the weekend. We will have NASCAR Xfinity Series coverage beginning at 4:30 Eastern Time today. So again, 4:30 Eastern today, little under an hour and a half from now, we'll have our coverage of that race. And then we will also have coverage for tomorrow's NASCAR Cup race beginning at 3 p.m. Eastern with our pre-race coverage. 3 p.m. tomorrow afternoon for our Cup Series coverage. And again, today on Fox at 4:30. Fox Sports 1, I should say, at 4:30, we will have the Xfinity race coverage. Now, the race tomorrow is on your local Fox affiliate once again. not on Fox Sports 1 like this qualifying session that is taking place right now. Seth Thomas, thanks for tuning in. He's given the command already. He can't wait. NASCAR Vintage 17, thanks for tuning in. All right, they are back. They're showing on their screen the 10 drivers who are still going to try to go for the pole. Not sure if there's going to be a interview or not coming up here. I think they might be cut to another break, and they are. We'll stay right here, though. No need for us to take another one. 42 likes. Again, our goal is 50 for this qualifying stream. It's a pretty short stream. Probably end up timing in at less than an hour and a half. Happy springtime. Thanks for tuning in, Regine. It is almost springtime. We're not quite there yet. It might feel like that in certain areas of the country. It was like 70 degrees last weekend in Northwest Ohio, and then there was one day it was like 55, and then we ended up having snow later that night. It didn't make any sense, but that's the season we're in right now. At least for here. Michael Turner saying Logano's front row streak is over. Yes, it is. 25% of you voted for him to qualify on the pole today. That is of the 60 votes. So 15 of the 60 votes went to Joey Logano, but he is not going to get the pole. Bell will not get the pole either at 7%. 38% of those 60 votes go to other and 30% for William Byron. And Byron still has a shot at the pole. So we'll end this poll. We'll see who will get a run at the actual poll. And I'm also going to end up pulling up the community tab because no, never mind. I didn't put it in there earlier. That was the Xfinity race. Never mind. This was the only poll we had for qualifying. Who will win the poll for Phoenix today? Yeah, 38% say somebody other than those three. 2/3 of those three are knocked out of qualifying already. Byron's still to go, and I believe he will be towards the bottom. Again, they go in descending order based on their times from Group A. So Group A's first 5 drivers will be up first. Chase Elliott will be the first driver to hit the racetrack because he was the last of those 5 in the first group. Unless it goes off of overall lap time, then that would not be the case then. There I go, not recognizing the rules of qualifying yet. I had it all right up until this point. I still might have had it right. I'm not 100% confident on it. All right. I'll let you listen into the broadcast for the first time during the course of this live stream for the first handful of drivers that are going to be taking a lap time here for their second group of qualifying.
It would be over there. They just stare at you and look at you funny sometimes, yeah, which is, you'd rather they just sit low and carried on.
Happy Hour Tuesday and Thursday. SVG will be in the Xfinity race later on today, and you saw Daniel Suarez walking away after qualifying, and he's on his way to the booth. to call that Xfinity Series race with Jamie Little and Joey Logano. That comes up later today on FS1. Final round qualifying. Hey, Taco Tuesday. Is that a Daniel Suarez autograph? It
Absolutely
is.
These bills are killing us.
Life would be great.
It still looks like we're getting another commercial break in here. Giving them a little bit of cool down time on the engines, I think, is the big thing here. Usually see a break between the first session of qualifying and then the final 10 that would go out for a second qualifying lap. So gives those drivers who were at the tail end of that last group to cool the engines down just a bit. Not going to get completely cooled down, obviously, but trying to make it as even and fair as possible for each of these teams trying to go for the pole here today. Again, this second session will have our top 10 starting lineup. Everybody from 11th on back in the qualifying order already set based off of Group A and Group B that qualified outside the top 5. Those positions not going to change. Your time, the race starts at 10 p.m. French time. Tune back in later. Man, it's going to be a late night for you. I've had a couple late nights myself so far this year with the streaming. Mainly during speed weeks at Daytona. That ARCA race going to almost 2 o'clock in the morning local time for me. And then the Xfinity race after the 500 went to a little past midnight as well. My time. And I had to work that next day too. It was it wasn't as much of a struggle going in as I thought it was going to be, I will say. That morning specifically. We're at 47 likes on the stream. We need 3 more to get to that goal of 50. Be sure to hit that like button, guys and gals. Got 3 more likes to get to our goal. Again, no practice session on this stream, so it's going to be a little bit shorter than what we would usually see for these practice/qualifying streams. Just qualifying for the Cup side today. Their practice session was 50 minutes that took place yesterday. But for Bristol next week, we'll have practice to qualify for you on that Saturday before the Truck Series race. Again, Xfinity Series will have their first off week next week. Then they will be back at COTA the following week for the first road course race of the season that will be seen in NASCAR. I believe the Truck Series is not going to have any road courses this year, if I remember correctly. I thought I remember seeing that on the schedule. We've seen them have anywhere between like 1 to 3 road courses the last several years, really since the post-pandemic. But yeah, no road courses for the Truck Series this season. But the first one for the Xfinity and the Cup Series in a couple weeks. We got our first of 2 trips to concrete Bristol next week. We got no dirt race at Bristol this season, back to 2 concrete dates. And we'll get to see them on that surface next weekend for the Truck and the Cup Series. And for the Truck Series, it's one of the few tracks that they actually go to more than once during the season is Bristol. They will also be running a night race later in the summer.
Areas here at this end of the Sonoran Desert, which pretty much runs from here to Tucson across the state. It's the only place in the world where the saguaro cactus grows.
Did you know that, Kevin? No, that's why I like being around Mike, because I feel like all those classes that I skipped out on in high school, I can make up for.
Yeah, I do that with my son.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
He doesn't hang out with me.
No, but when he's going through school in the 2nd grade, I'm learning a lot these days.
Right. Second time around, right? All right, Chase Elliott was 5th fastest in Group A, 8th overall of the 10 that transferred. So he is first up here on the clock in the final round.
Yeah, my goal in this session was always to just try to run the same speed that I did in the first session and just see where it stacked up.
That's what we're trying to figure out, right? I mean, where's the grip level at? Second time around on these tires. It's going to be faster, less. Got to figure that out. Getting up to speed that very quickly.
27-24 for Elliott. That's about a 14/100th fall off from round 1. Carson Hocevar next. Nice to see the rookie in the top 10 here.
Absolutely. Great job.
We would categorize Carson Hocevar as a gasser.
Oh, absolutely. Full commit. Full of, hope and enthusiasm and
He's full of speed.
confidence.
That's what he is.
And what breeds that confidence? Speed in your race. Off the pace. Didn't it?
Well,
he lifted a big lift there, too. Big lift on the exit. Couldn't stay with the throttle. I'm going to tell you, making this top 10 is a win for this race team and that race car driver. Can't get to the bottom of the racetrack there either. I think it's very tight. It looks to me like.
I'm not sure what he did coming to the green. That was interesting.
27:49. So Hocevar falls off.
Messed up coming to green pretty bad.
There you have it. Falls off 3.5 tenths.
Still, great effort.
Yes.
Great foot forward. Top 10 there. That's a great start for him and his team. Goes a long ways towards a good finish.
Eric Jones ran a 27:11 in round 1.
Always tough at these tracks, having to come back out on hot tires. You see him go the distance route here, taking the shortest route.
That's where that angle, cutting that racetrack off, affects your angle getting in, but he was able to get the car rotating, get to the throttle. This is a good lap going for Eric Jones.
27:24. And like Chase Elliott, he has that fall off of about 13/100ths. Hitting the transition.
Oh, pow. See how he just compresses in the seat. My goodness.
What I saw going back to 3 and 4, he was ahead, right? You heard him get to the throttle early and very affirmative, but then he started to bleed out of it a little bit. Couldn't keep that throttle down and gave up the time on the exit of 4. I thought he had him.
Yeah, and it's so important if you're going to be good at 3 and 4. When you transition out of that brake to be able to roll to the throttle and just put it down.
And when you put it down, you cannot come out of it. Have to have that car rotated where you can stay with it.
William Byron takes the shortcut, 27:10 in the first round. Pole sitter here last year.
You see everything those guys gain, they lose to the center of the corner, but like Tyler Reddick we saw in the first round, if you go up that racetrack a little bit and diamond it off, you're able to get a good one off the corner. But this William Byron team has done an amazing job since yesterday in practice when they were not very good.
Yeah, 24th. Byron again, third, 27:20.
Chase Elliott still at the top. He was the first of these 10 drivers to make a second lap, and by 6/1000ths of a second still holds over Eric Jones in second. William Byron, who was second fastest in his group and second fastest overall of these 10 drivers, going for another lap time. Byron third of 4, only ahead of Hocevar. He was about 200ths of a second off Elliott's time. Denny Hamlin, who had the fastest lap through Group A and overall that first session of qualifying, is on the racetrack trying to put down a lap time to get him back to that top spot once again. As he works his way off turn 4, Hamlin will start his lap. He will take the cut to the apron. Hamlin did not do that in his lap time earlier. It wasn't that drastic of a cut to the apron, though. Not as drastic as we've seen a few other drivers do, but he did take a little bit of a dip below the yellow line. He is pacing ahead of Chase Elliott. We've seen everybody fall off from their first lap time to their second lap of qualifying. Hamlin's going to fall off a little bit too, but not enough to knock him out of the top spot for the moment. 27.138 for Denny Hamlin. His fall off a little over a tenth of a second, but it is the fastest with 5 drivers still to go. Noah Gragson, Chase Briscoe, Michael McDowell, Tyler Reddick, and Ty Gibbs are the final 5. Not in that order, though. Gragson will be up next. Gragson, then Gibbs will be the next 2, followed by Briscoe, Reddick, and McDowell. Got a commercial break right now. A little extra cool down time again for those drivers in the second group. EL_289. Thanks for tuning in. And we did get to our goal of 50 likes on the stream, so thank you all for getting us there. 52 likes so far on the stream. Be sure to hit that like button still if you haven't done so yet, and also subscribe for more NASCAR content as we're on the road to 5,000 subs. Live commentary streams every NASCAR race weekend for NASCAR Cup qualifying, as you see here, as well as their practice sessions when they are before qualifying and go right into. Those are all on the same stream. Then we also have commentary for the NASCAR Truck, Xfinity, and Cup Series races every weekend. Again, Truck Series off this week for the first time this season, and then we will be seeing them back on the track next week. And the Xfinity Series will have their first off week at Bristol next week. So as far as the live streams this weekend, only 3 of them. This one right here, no practice either. And then the races for this weekend, Xfinity Series race start time at 4:30 Eastern, and then at 3 p.m. Eastern tomorrow afternoon will be our NASCAR Cup Series coverage. We'll take a quick break, and then we'll continue the live commentary coverage of the Shriners Children's 500 qualifying session at Phoenix. Used to be Evan Bourne. Okay, yeah, I remember you. I don't remember the name change, so yeah. But yeah, I remember you. Definitely one of the longtime viewers of the channel. One of the original subscribers. So a Toyota at the top of Denny Hamlin for right now. Number 1 pit box has won 3 of the last 7 races at Phoenix. It's spring and fall, I do believe. And it's going to be important here for Hamlin to try to get that pole for that reason. No more Chevys to go. And 3 Fords and 2 Toyotas remaining. Again, no Chevys in the second group. Made their way into qualifying. Chase Elliott, though, who was the 5th fastest of everybody in that first group, was 2nd fastest of Group A's final session. So, although he dropped off in lap time, it wasn't as much as all the other drivers around him. And we'll see if Hamlin's lap time is going to be able to hold up. Gragson on the track as we speak. Just finishing up his warm-up lap, and his counted lap time will begin right now. Doesn't cut the dog leg. Didn't in the first session of qualifying either. Left side tire's just a little bit below that yellow line. He works his way off turn 4. It doesn't look like he's going to have anything for Denny Hamlin at least. We'll see where Gregson's lap time will settle in at. Coming off a top 10 finish again last week. 5th fastest of 6 so far. Only car Gragson was ahead of was Hocevar. But struggle on his warm-up lap, which definitely resulted in that 27.4 that we saw on his timed lap. 5th fastest, though, for Noah, 27.332. And again, everybody's been dropping off in lap times from that first session to this second session. Really a 10th or more for a lot of these drivers in the fall off. Ty Gibbs is on the track. Wiggling the car a little bit there off of turn 2. Almost had an overcorrection. Like he stayed in the gas though. Big cut for Ty Gibbs through the dogleg. Doesn't look like he made up enough time to beat Hamlin out into turns 1 and 2. We'll see. By way of Hamlin's ghost car, it's definitely closing in off the exit of turn 2, but Gibbs' time looking respectable so far. He has to have a solid turns 3 and 4. Ty might have a shot at the pole here. Second for Ty Gibbs, 27.226. Within 0.08 of a second of Denny Hamlin. It's close. 2 Toyotas now on the front. 3 qualifiers to go. Briscoe, then Reddick, then McDowell. McDowell with 2 front row starts already this season. A pole at Atlanta, his first of his career. And then a second place starting position for the Daytona 500. Had a top 10 finish at Atlanta as well. Briscoe with 2 top 10 finishes this year through his first 3 races. 9th at Atlanta, 6th last week at Vegas. His timed lap is beginning. We'll take the cut through the dog leg. Not as deep as what we just saw from Ty Gibbs. Kind of closer to what Hamlin's cut through the dog leg was. Briscoe going to widen the car out quite a bit through turns 1 and 2, but it looks like that's going to hurt him. He doesn't look like he's going to be able to pick up the speed needed to keep up with what Hamlin's lap time was, again, of a 27.138. So Hamlin will stay at the top with 2 cars to go. And Briscoe will time in 7th fastest of the 8 that have qualified in the second session at a 27.363. So 2 drivers to go. Again, Tyler Reddick and then Michael McDowell. Reddick qualified 3rd in the Daytona 500. Only time he's been in the second session of qualifying so far this season. Reddick starting his lap. A little bit of a wide arc, it looked like, through turns 3 and 4 for him. Widened at least the entry out a bit. Went to the apron, but not as deep down to the apron as he did through his first qualifying lap in that second group, that Group B first session. And Reddick had fallen off, much like every other driver. He is not going to get the pole on Denny Hamlin. And Reddick is going to be 6th fastest with a 27.270. 1 driver to go. Michael McDowell, Arizona native, trying to get his 2nd pole of his career, all in the last 3 weeks. Qualified 12th at Las Vegas on the only non-super speedway racetrack this season. It's still a respectable start. He's locked into a top 10, and he's going to go for broke here as he tries to go for the pole for the first time of his career now at his home track. He was obviously the fastest in Group B, but he was 3rd fastest overall through all 36 cars that took a qualifying lap in that first session. Not going to the dog leg this time for McDowell. We'll see if that works out for him. Should allow for a quicker turns 1 and 2 speed. And he fell off at the 2/3 mark at the corner. I don't think he was able to stay in the gas as much as he wanted to. Hamlin was on his lap time, and it looks like Denny Hamlin is going to get the pole. And Michael McDowell will time in 9th fastest as he dropped off a lot more in turns 3 and 4, a 27.440 for McDowell. So congrats to Denny Hamlin for scoring his first pole of 2024 at Phoenix at all Joe Gibbs Racing front row, with Gibbs starting in 2nd, Chase Elliott qualifying in 3rd, and we'll go through the rest of the starting order once Regan Smith is done with Denny Hamlin's interview.
Great. I'm really trying to get better at this place. It seems like over since 2019, just next gen era really just haven't been as strong at this racetrack as we want to. So if we want to make a run at a championship and you have to win it through Phoenix, you got to get better at Phoenix. So really working hard at trying to get better at Phoenix. The whole team is, and it's a great start for our whole Brakes Plus Toyota. So pretty happy about it.
All right, congratulations, Eddie.
Denny Hamlin leads.
So again, your top 10 through qualifying. Denny Hamlin will be on the pole. Ty Gibbs starts 2nd tomorrow. Chase Elliott, Eric Jones will make up row 2. Row 3 is going to be William Byron, Tyler Reddick. Noah Gragson and Chase Briscoe, a couple SHR Fords, will be in row 4. They were the top Fords in qualifying as well overall. Michael McDowell and Carson Hocevar in row number 5. 3rd top 10 start of the year for McDowell, and the 2nd for Carson. 3rd, rather, for Carson as well this season. So that is your top 10 there. And that is also going to conclude our live commentary stream of this NASCAR Cup Series qualifying session at Phoenix. We'll have race coverage tomorrow again at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, but also today, as the stream is already up, as well as tomorrow's stream, the NASCAR Xfinity Series race will start at 4:30. 4:30 Eastern Time today for the NASCAR Xfinity Series race coverage. Pre-race at 3 tomorrow for Cup. I think I've reiterated that enough on the stream. Appreciate everybody that has tuned in throughout the course of this live commentary qualifying stream. We hit our goal of 50 likes. We're at 57 right now. But if you haven't done so yet, please do so. It still helps the channel out a lot. You know what else helps out me and the channel a lot? Hitting that subscribe button. Be sure to do that as well. 5,000 subs is our goal as of right now. Hopefully we can get there sooner rather than later. See you guys in about an hour exactly from right now for some Xfinity Series racing. Thanks again for tuning in. See you soon.